I'm speaking to a number of nature organisations at the moment with that, but previously it's been pre-recorded, and then I've been exhibiting the VR, the 360 nature documentary in different areas around Europe and also in Burning Man in the US as well.
Hi everyone, welcome to Now Boarding, a new travel podcast by me, Payal Nayar. This show aims at creating awareness about ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible travel, and a lot more. We will cover stories and journeys of people who are ecotourism specialists and those who are leaders in their field. We will also be talking to people who have had unique travel experiences, remarkable conceptual places to stay, unexplored cultures, and ancient histories of various towns and cities around the world. Join me in this journey of knowing more about travel. Get inspired to see the world and discover your inner self. Hi everyone, today I'm in conversation with the lovely Elaine Ford. Elaine is an artist, she's a wildlife biologist from Scotland. She is also a founder at Electric Explorer, Recharge in Nature, and we're going to hear all about that from Elaine very, very shortly. But I just want to quote Elaine where she says that she loves the connection between art, science, and the use of technology to be able to see the world in different ways. Thank you so much, Elaine. As I mentioned before we started this recording the conversation, that I'm really, really excited to understand how you're able to merge and how did all of this begin. So thank you once again for joining in.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Super. So let's begin. So before, anything else, I just wanted to understand from you, how did you manage to integrate art, science, and technology in your work to explore, new perspectives on the natural world? I mean, so what came first? Was it art or was it biology?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off studying fine art. I was originally a drawer and painter, and I've always been super inspired by the natural world and looking for patterns in the natural world and thinking about different textures and colors that I find within that. And I found throughout my degrees that I was really keen to raise awareness of environmental issues. And my artwork was all about communicating these issues or looking at amazing kind of intricacies of the complex interconnections of our ecosystems. So I wanted to gain further knowledge on biology, on environmental protection. And I also worked in the Environmental Protection Agency in Scotland as well, at the same time doing my fine art degree. So I was heavily inspired by the science that I was seeing there with top scientists. And I retrained as an ecologist and integrated Masters in Tropical Biodiversity with the Royal Botanic Gardens and at Edinburgh University, which really gave me that further ecological knowledge and understanding, which really platformed my ability to be able to explore more in more detail, different approaches in art, materials and processes. And I find that both art and science are so similar in so many ways, in terms of you've got this curiosity within inside you where you want to find out more about something you're studying to understand it more. And you're coming up with hypotheses and questions. And the method you choose to do that can also be similar between arts and sciences. So for example, drawing. When I was at art school, I was initially into drawing, technical drawing. And then when I went straight into studying biology with ecology, we had lab books, which we were also doing detailed drawings of different, whether it was anatomical or whether it was different life forms. And that kind of observational recording is all part of the process of both. But then you're looking at how can you be creative? How can you find new grounds in science, or how can you push the boundaries of art? And that's where these things really collide.
And where did technology come into play and how?
Yeah, so in terms of where I first integrated, I guess, technology within my work, it was looking at how can I use traditional methods, say, of art, and use technology to enhance a traditional method. So for example, glass blowing, traditional stained glass. But with digital crafting with glass, you can start using laser scanning you can scan objects of the natural world and then put that into a 3D computer program to then look at how you can start to break apart that object and reform it and build it, but using like patterns that you see. And then linking that to thinking about like processes of the natural world. With RSPB, I collaborated on a project with In Space Gallery in Edinburgh. And I also partnered with the Future Institutes and Space Intelligence as a part of this. So this was using satellite technology to be able to understand the movement of puffins across the north of Scotland. So like I was able to access remote sensing, like satellite, Sentinel satellite, to be able to look at landscape cover. And then I used bathymetric data to look at ocean, how the depth of the ocean, and then the GPS, your geospatial positioning of the birds over these landscapes, and thinking about like how they're moving over like vast distances across the world, across the oceans, and how technology like enables us to further understand both the movements of the puffins over these landscapes, as well as like a little bit more information on like how these animals see the world. So like birds are an incredible example because they like navigate over such huge distances, and they can return exactly to the same spot from where they had like their breeding ground. They do use like, say, how humans used to use in the past, sailors used to use like stars and looking like to navigate across the oceans. And the birds do use this, but there's also the magnetic fields, which they use as well to help navigate, unlike humans. So it's just like really interesting to think how different plants and animals see the world in different ways. And our kind of development of technology enables us to understand that better and think about not just within an anthropocentric view of how we see the world, but how other animals and plants sense the world as well.
Tell me about Electric Explorer and how that came about and what exactly is your objective behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off from filming 360 for virtual reality experiences. So this is where Electric Explorer really came about. And I was going to remote habitats, placing 360 cameras, and animals I'd hide the cameras so animals couldn't see them within their habitat, and they'd walk right past. So as a viewer, if you put on a virtual reality headset or on your phone, you can see the animal and it's like moving around in its wild, natural habitat. And like you feel that connection with it, and it's not afraid of you. It's not, because it can't see you, but you can see it, and you feel like you're a part.
Is this real time, or you record it, or how does that work?
Yeah. So this was pre-recorded, but more recently, I'm experimenting with real-time 360 and virtual reality experiences. I'm speaking to a number of nature organizations at the moment with that, but previously it's been pre-recorded, and then I've been exhibiting the VR, the 360 nature documentary, in different areas around Europe and also in Burning Man in the US as well. But I've always been like super passionate about exploring the outdoors, and technology can like help us to do that, right? Because you can map out these amazing areas, find out what species you can see when and where, and that's exactly what we're mapping out with Electric Explorer. So it's all about like mapping out incredible nature, beautiful sites, providing like ecological content on what you can see, where and when, and tips on how you can travel there as well. And we're based in Scotland, but we're looking to expand across the world. So I was recently in Singapore at visiting the national parks and meeting with a few people there, and looking at the existing app as well that you have to explore the national parks there, and thinking about how that can be integrated into a larger platform where across the world you can link to all these destinations and find out about the incredible nature. And Singapore was incredible. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea, like the remnant rainforests that were left there and that have been like untouched, and the wildlife and biodiversity is incredible to see, and like the sounds and the smells. And I saw a 11-foot long saltwater crocodile, which I did not expect to see.
Yeah, I go for these nature walks when I'm in town. When I am in Singapore, I travel a lot. And for example, just yesterday, I was walking with a friend through one of these nature reserves, and we encountered monitor lizards, we encountered monkeys, and a lot of monkeys. We encountered different kinds of birds, and it was like probably around 12 kilometers, the entire trail. So we did all of it. And it's fascinating to see how Singapore has been able to retain so much of the natural, because clearly a lot of the animals have been displaced, right, because of the development, but to make sure that they still have that, that they're not completely sort of uprooted from their natural habitat. And I think it's incredible. And I see that Singapore is trying to create this awareness so now they have this, I'm sure you must have also understood and gone through it and talked to people about it. So they have this path connector, which actually connects you. It I think takes you from one end of the island to the other, and they've created these trails all along so you can explore different nature reserves, and you can do it in your own time. So anyways, coming back to you, and I just wanted to understand, it all sounds very exciting, but I'm sure there must be some challenges that you face when you try and merge art and science and technology and try and bring it all together. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced while you've gone through the process with some of your projects?
Yeah, I think for me, personally, I find that sometimes it's a slightly different way of communicating like particular types of work, and sometimes switching between, say, something that's very objective, scientific, and it's very factual based from, say, if it's more artistic, it's more about they were expressing a feeling or an idea that isn't maybe based on data, but it's not necessarily providing any evidence towards proving or disproving something. And sometimes I find like that can be tricky. I also thought it was really funny during my training as an ecologist when I switched from art school, doing the lab books and the drawing. I remember getting a report back saying that, oh, your drawings are too artistic and I lost marks. Because it's got a different like intention and motivation. Yeah. And I also love the idea of co-creating with nature, so that you're not taking like full control over the final outcome of something. Yeah. And you're like, so I worked with a slime mold, which I don't know if you know much about slime mold. No. But it's incredible. It's neither a plant, animal, or fungi. It's in its own family. It's a unicellular organism, but it's been shown to have like memory and intelligence and problem-solving abilities. And it's like a super ancient organism. And it's got these incredible bright yellow colors, and it like explores out, and it's been used for even like an engineering and scientific experiments to look at how, say, we could better engineer the like connections between undergrounds, or like the Tokyo railway system was an example of where they actually use slime mold to think about like optimizing the most efficient route from A to B. And it's just incredible that we could like think about co-creating with more like different non-human species to help build a more sustainable world.
Yeah. Have you heard about the Earth Overshoot Day? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is coming up in 2nd of August.
I think 1st of August. Yeah.
So like ecological debt day, also known as. So that's when we've already used the ecological resources and services exceeded what the Earth can regenerate within that year. So our goal is to try and push that date back, allowing the planet's ecosystem more time to regenerate. But unfortunately, that's not like 7-8 months in. We're not anywhere near where we should be. But I guess I'm really passionate about following nature-based solutions and how we can empower those to help kind of push that date back.
Is there anything that you would like to share, or you'd like for people who are artists and who would like to bring in technology and who are keen on the environment and the issues around it. Is there something that you would like to advise or to share with the listeners who may be interested to know more about it?
Yeah, I think it's about finding like what is it that you're passionate about? What are you curious about? And whether it's art or technology or AI or whatever it is, or whether it's combining and fusing these things together, it's really about like finding like your interest and then becoming like an expert in that, or becoming very knowledgeable in that area and just working in that particular area, because you can't try and solve everything, right? And sometimes the issues feel overwhelming with the joint climate and biodiversity crisis, and there's a lot more in the media about like ecological dooms and depression from the communications around that. But yeah, it's about like finding like, well, what is it like that you can do in your part? And if we all have our individual part, then we can definitely lead towards a more sustainable future.
Yeah, we're all hoping for that. And, and I think everyone's trying to do their part, to be fair, but even I am in very small way. But by talking to, like you mentioned earlier, that you'd love to know what Now Boarding is all about. And it's exactly that, talking to different people who have a different approach and who have ideas on how they can help and contribute, and who are passionate about trying to make a difference. And so these are the kind of guests that I have and I talk to. And if somewhere there is even a small impact with these conversations or through these conversations in the bigger scheme of things, I would have, I would feel like I've accomplished something. I mean, it's a long way to go, but it's these conversations that really help in inspiring and encouraging others who don't know, who may have it, and who may be wanting to do something about it, but don't know how to. And then when they listen to these conversations, it encourages them to maybe start doing something on their own. So I think that's the objective of really Now Boarding, to try and help make a difference.
I think it's really valuable to start fostering that kind of community as well, that you're doing, like bringing people together and then like having I guess like a site, a place that people can go to, not only listen, but connect with others and find out more about how they can become maybe environmental advocates or get involved with like different nature enthusiasts or whatever it is, like community, and like fostering that kind of like sense of belonging for a place that people can learn and help to learn like through each other's experiences, and where that might lead in the future is quite exciting as well.
And however small, but it's, it's the first steps that actually then help to build. And you're absolutely right. It is a community that is now being created, and people do reach out to me wanting to talk about what they are doing and how they can inspire others. So, and I really appreciate, and it's interesting how you're also trying to, like you said, trying to create different ways in which you can, and I think I saw your website. I think what you're doing with Electric Explorer as well is fascinating, because I think people can, you've created these little, you haven't really talked much about Electric Explorers.
I could give a little bit more
rather than me, talking about it, because obviously I will not be able to do justice. So, I'd like you to share a little more about what you're doing with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Electric Explorer Recharge in Nature is a nature and adventure trip planner So we're mapping out these incredible nature sites to help connect people with nature and also find out about local native species across the world and provide that really interesting ecological content. We're also trying to foster that vibrant community of people that love to go outdoors and explore, as well as connecting with scientists that are doing incredible research and like finding out where these things are in different locations and keeping up to date on what's happening. We're also mapping out citizen science initiatives and volunteerism. So looking at where people can actually, like near them, find out about activities that they can do which help contribute towards the protection of the environment, linking to, like, say, if it's bird watching or if it's to tree planting or that kind of thing. And we're mapping out nature positive tourism.
So do you have an app or how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So it's a web app just now. It's we're fairly early stage. I partnered with nature organisations in Scotland, Nature Scot, and also Southern Upland Partnership. I've connected with further nature organisations in the UK, as well as meeting with the Singapore National Parks and like thinking about like how can enhance visitor experience to learn more about nature, from ranging from virtual reality to like actually when you're on site.
Yeah.
So like virtual for international visitors that can watch remotely and find out remotely too if you're actually there, and how can you explore and what can you find out about. So we will be creating a mobile app. We'll be developing that soon. And we're also integrating electric vehicle information into the app, not only the charge points, but also like thinking about like scenic routes that you can go and experiencing around chargers. I don't know if you have an electric car or have driven an electric car. I know Singapore has not got as many cars in the city compared to other cities, but there's quite a few problems with traveling in electric cars, like from range anxiety to charge boredom. And it's thinking about how you can kind of like have nature positive scenic tours using these kind of electric forms of travel, and also bike as well. So although we're integrating the electric vehicle information into the app just now, that we are looking to bring on board a lot more sustainable travel information as well.
Right.
But it's really exciting. We're speaking to a different bunch of car manufacturers at the moment, which are under NDA, so I can't say too much about that just now, as well as seeing the impact from the nature organisations that we're working with too.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm sure in the next few months, or at least in the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot more from Electric Explorer. And looking forward to that, and I'm going to follow your journey. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Elaine, and I wish you all the very best, and keep up with all the fabulous work that you are doing.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you. You have a good day.
You too.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of Now Boarding, a travel podcast. Check out other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes only on Now Boarding, a travel podcast.